Hello friends, this video on the fundamental unit of life part 11 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. We will now talk about the next cell organelle, that is mitochondria. So let us see what is mitochondria. These are rod-shaped organelles bounded by two membranes. So again, rod-like structures bounded by two membranes. So if you look at it, you get a picture like this. So this is the mitochondria. This is how a mitochondria looks like. So how does a mitochondria look like? So let us look at the structure of a mitochondria. It has an outer membrane and another inner membrane. So if you look at the figure, you can look at its outer membrane. So this red line represents the outer membrane of the mitochondria, which is smooth and porous. So this membrane is smooth. It has got no obstructions, right? So this is the outer membrane. Next we have another inner membrane which is deeply folded. So if you look at the inner membrane, this is the inner membrane. So if you look at this membrane, it is a folded structure. It is not that smooth. So it has got curves and turns, right? So this is a deeply folded inner membrane. Okay, what else does it have? These folds provide greater surface area. Now because of these folds, it will provide greater surface area to the structure to generate ATP. What is ATP? ATP is adenosine triphosphate. So these ATP molecules are the ones which are being used as energy. So these adenosine triphosphate molecules are nothing but energy. So energy is produced in the form of these ATP molecules, right? And this energy is produced by mitochondria. So that is the main function of mitochondria. So that is how the structure of mitochondria helps in its production of ATP molecules. Outer membrane is smooth but inner membrane is deeply folded. Because of these folds, it has got greater surface area, so it can generate greater number of ATP molecules. Now, after the inner membrane, it has got cristae. What are these cristae? The inner membrane is compartmentalized into various cristae. So, if you look here, these are the cristae. That is, the inner membrane are compartmentalized into various cristae. See, this is the inner membrane. So, the inner membrane forms compartments like this. You can see this is one compartment, this is another compartment, this is another compartment. So, these compartments are known as cristae because the second inner membrane has got deep folds. Therefore, these structures, these spaces between the inner membranes is known as the cristae, right? Then we have matrix. What is matrix? It is the ground substance or space enclosed by the inner membrane. So this region has got matrix. So this is matrix, that means this region, that means the region enclosed by the inner membrane. So these are the four basic things in the structure of mitochondria. First is the outer membrane, which is a smooth outermost covering. Next is inner membrane, which is deeply folded such that the folds give greater surface area so that it can generate greater number of ATP molecules. Now, because of these folds of the inner membrane, there are compartments which are created, and these compartments are known as cristae. Now, the area enclosed by the inner membrane is known as matrix. Right? Clear with the structure of mitochondria? Now, let us try to locate mitochondria in animal cells. Where do we see mitochondria in animal cells? So, here if you see, this is the mitochondria. So this is how the mitochondria looks like. Outer membrane, curved inner membrane, right? So this is the mitochondria. Now how does the mitochondria looks like in a plant cell? So in a plant cell you have mitochondria here. Again, it looks similar, right? Now, it is not necessary that one cell can have only one mitochondria. It can have multiple mitochondria also. For example, in this cell only, you have one mitochondria here. Again, you have another mitochondria here. So, you can have one or you can have many. So, let us look at the significance of mitochondria. It is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Why powerhouse? Because it generates energy in the form of ATP molecules. So energy is released in the form of adenosine triphosphate molecules. Now you must be wondering, what is this adenosine triphosphate? Please do not bother yourself with this. You will learn all these things in your chemistry and that too in your higher classes. So it is some molecule, adenosine triphosphate. It can synthesize its own proteins as they have their own DNA and ribosomes. Now, if you have ribosomes, that means you can manufacture proteins, because ribosomes are the site for protein synthesis, right? Now, since mitochondria has its own ribosome and own DNA, therefore they can synthesize their own proteins. So mitochondria is not dependent on the proteins which are generated on the endoplasmic reticulum and then carried over by the Golgi apparatus. So mitochondria is not dependent on anybody for proteins. It can synthesize its own proteins. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. We will now talk about plastids. What are plastids? Organelles present only in plant cell. That is the most important point, because we do not see plastids in animal cells. So it is very, very important to make a note that plastids are present only in plant cells. There are two types of plastids. One is chromoplast and the other one is leucoplast. Okay, so this is the microscopic view of a plastid. I mean, under the microscope it looks somewhat like this. Okay, we will talk about all those things. So broadly there are two types, chromoplast and leucoplast. So let us talk about one by one in detail. So where do we see plastids in a plant cell? So first let us locate plastids in a plant cell. So you can locate plastid here. So this chloroplast is a type of plastid. So these green colored structure is nothing but plastid. So we will talk about chloroplast in the next few slides. So let us first talk about the two types of plastids, that is leucoplast. First let us start with leucoplast. Now leucoplasts are the colorless plastids. So they do not have any colors. They help in storage of food like starch, oils and proteins. For example, plastids are present in plant cells. So there also you need as many organs as you have which can store things, the better it is, right? So this plastids helps to store food like starch, oils and proteins, right? So they are used as storage organs. Chromoplasts. What are chromoplasts? They are colored plastids. For example, now when you think of colored plastids, what all things come to your mind? I am right now talking about plant cells. So in plants, what are the things that are colored? When I talk of colored plastids, you can think of the green color of the leaf. You can think of the red color of the tomato. You can also think of the yellow color of the sunflower, right? So these colors are because of the presence of plastids, and these are because of the presence of colored plastids, right? That these things are of bright colors, right? Now chromoplasts with chlorophyll are known as chloroplasts. So chloroplast is a category, or it is a kind of chromoplast only, but which is green in color. And why is chloroplast green in color? Because it contains a pigment known as chlorophyll, right? So that means the leaves are green in color because they contain chloroplasts, and chloroplasts contain the pigment chlorophyll. Clear? So that means there are two types of plastids. One is chromoplast, one is leucoplast. Chromoplasts are the colored plastids. So what are the purpose of chromoplasts? They actually give color to the different parts of the plants, right? Chromoplasts which are green in color are called chloroplasts, and they are present in the leaves of the plants. On the other hand, leucoplasts are colorless plastids, but they help in storage of food items inside the plant, right? Let us now talk about the importance of chloroplasts, because chloroplasts is something because of which the leaves are green, and this green leaves have a very important role to play for the survival of plants. So chloroplasts contain a green pigment called chlorophyll. Okay, they help in photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process by which plants make their own food in presence of sunlight. Now, photosynthesis is possible only when there is sunlight and there is chlorophyll, both. So, photosynthesis is something which prepares food for plants. So, if photosynthesis doesn't happen, plant will not get its food, and therefore plants will not survive. So, chloroplasts are an extremely important thing for the survival of the plants. They are also known as the kitchen of the cell because they help in photosynthesis, and photosynthesis actually results in production of food. Okay, how does the structure of a chloroplast looks like? There are numerous membrane layers are embedded in a material. So many membrane layers, that means membrane bound layers are there which are embedded in a material. So these membrane layers are known as grana or granum. So grana is the plural of granum. So what is granum? Granum means these membrane layers. So here you can see these are the different layers. It is like you take many saucers and keep one above the another. So what happens? Many layers are arranged in a column, right? So similar is the scenario here. So many layers are arranged one after another, and then they are embedded in a material. So the material on which they are embedded, that is known as stroma, and each of these layers is known as granum. So this is grana and this is stroma. Stroma is the material. This dark green colored material on which it is embedded, that is called stroma. So let us suppose this is the stroma and grana is something like this. So one above another, and then they are embedded in a material, right? So chloroplast is made up of grana and stroma. So grana are the membrane layers and grana are the ones which contain chlorophyll. So these layers actually contain chlorophyll. Whereas stroma is a homogeneous mixture, it is the ground material. It contains photosynthetic enzymes and starch grains. Right? So both of them together helps in the process of photosynthesis, because one contains chlorophyll, the other one contains the photosynthetic enzymes and starch grains. Now let us quickly look at the significance of plastids. They help in photosynthesis, absolutely true. They also help in storage of plant food, which is extremely necessary again. They have their own DNA and ribosomes, so they can also make their own proteins. So this is a similarity of plastids with whom? With mitochondria. Even the same thing is true for mitochondria. Mitochondria also has its own DNA and ribosomes. Therefore, they are not dependent on others for proteins. They can make their own proteins. Right? So that is how plastids are significant to plant cells.
Thank you. Please visit examfear.com to watch free educational videos, try free online tests, get the best quality study materials, study from the best tutors and mentors, and much more. Thank you once again.